Welcome. We're doing a culturally and linguistically responsive teaching professional development given by me, Cody Severts, with the strategies and different movement techniques from Dr. Holly's book and binder that you have in front of you. We're going to start out by watching a video of Dr. Holly kind of explaining and going through the finer points of what we're going to be learning throughout this school year. We'll discuss some of the stuff that will be covered more so throughout our classroom and what it looks like in our classroom visits. During his video, I'd like you to write down 3 aha moments that you think of that you might already do in the classroom or that you would like to do. There are sticky notes at your table and pencils and pens, so when you're watching, please take three moments to write down something that you would like to do or that you maybe have covered in your classroom.
Demonstrating how culturally and linguistically responsive teaching looks in the classroom. And what that is the validation and affirmation of home language and home cultural behaviors through instructional activities for the purposes of building and bridging the students to success in academia and mainstream culture. Our teachers are trained in a process for how to validate and affirm, build, and bridge. That really starts with looking at 4 general areas of instruction, which are classroom management, academic vocabulary, academic literacy, and academic language. And under each of those general areas, we have what I call CLR categories, or validating and affirming categories, that begin with the use of attention signals, use of discussion protocols, responding protocols, use of movement activities, and use of collaboration, extended collaboration. That is something that is general in all classes that are culturally responsive. When we validate the home language, we're really getting at the root of, in some cases, indigenous languages. In our case, it would be non-standard languages, or what we call unaccepted language. There are 4 major non-standard languages. They are African American vernacular, that is called in the research, we call it African American language, Chicano English, Hawaiian Pidgin English, and Native American dialects. So those are the 4 major non-standard languages. Most of our students come from homes that speak a Black English or African American language. So we focus on it as a home language. Some of our students come from homes that speak Spanish, so that would be their home language. So we go from that root as the home language, validating and affirming the sound system, the rule system, the vocabulary, or even the pragmatic language, which is the nonverbals, eye contact, hand gestures. And so that's validated through literature, through the students speaking, through the students writing. So we don't correct, we don't fix, we don't make it better, we don't use any deficit terminology. It's all about translating, put another way, put it into school language, convert. That's the language we use with our students. So it triggers for them in their minds that they have to code switch, and they have to code switch to the language of school, which is standard English, or what would be considered everyday English. And in some cases, they have to learn how to code switch to academic language, which then focuses on writing specifically in an academic setting. The use of the culturally responsive text serves 2 purposes. One is obvious in terms of students seeing themselves represented in text, learning about their history, learning about their community in an authentic way. And so we have all our culturally responsive texts are selected around their authentic use. A less obvious one, I think, is that we're still able to teach the standards, even at a level above grade level, around certain concepts as comprehension or fluency, the things that you would see in a traditional literature program. And also, if the text contain home language, then it allows us to do both, to focus on culture and language. In general, a lot of the activities that you're seeing are part of, I would say, a general collection. Like I normally say we're not slicing bread by having these activities. So let's take musical chairs. Musical chairs is actually something very common in the context of engagement activities for any classroom. What we're doing is we're trying to use these common activities in a responsive way to a population that normally would not have exposure to that type of activity. We're trying to demonstrate that you can do a musical chairs with students of color, and they won't get out of control. They won't go berserk. You won't have fighting in the room. You won't have chaos in the room. And also, it'll increase their level of engagement to engage in whatever comes next. And so what I try to let teachers know is we're trying to sort of engage them so that when they sit back down or when they come back to order, you can do whatever you want because you have them. And that's really how the musical chairs is supposed to work. So we make it responsive by the music that we choose, because a lot of cases it'll be maybe more traditional music. I won't put a label on that, but so we try to use music that the kids can relate to, can respond to. Also, movement is important in culture because of the kinesthetic aspect to it, the sociocentric or socializing aspect to it. These are all the reasons why something like musical chairs is important for students from a cultural standpoint.
Still on, Chad.
Put your right hand on your heart, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Full of the hope that the present has brought us
Sing. Fight. Friday is Sports Day. When I say sports, you say day. Sports? Day. Sports? Day. All right.
The warning strike.
The warning
When I say sports, you say day. Sports. Day. Sports. Day. Go to class. 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 Go to class.
Chad. It logged out. Is it still videoing? It's still going. Okay, so looking at that video, some of the interesting things that I saw, and I'll start out, and we'll have a campfire discussion, roundtable discussion on what our aha moments are, what we've covered. I know we have a lot of different levels of familiarity with Dr. Holly's works. A lot of our teachers have went through it, and we have some new teachers. So we have different levels and some different knowledge on that path. One thing I noticed, and I know it's going to be really hard, maybe less for me, but more for ELA teachers, is during the video, he said when you're bridging from their home language to school language or the culturally accepted language, You must not correct, but you must build a bridge. I know one thing that I hear almost daily is "you is," and instead of correcting that type of language, we need to then ask the student, if I were to put that in a paper, or if I was speaking in business setting, how would we put that? And that way they can take what they said, bridge it and validate it, and make sure it goes to the language that we want them to be speaking and to make them successful in the school setting. That's one thing I noticed when I was listening to the video. Also, you'll be hearing a lot, we'll be doing a lot throughout the school year with VABing is what we call it: validate, affirm, build, and bridge. That's going to create times where students are going to work extra hard for you just because of that extra VABing, the validating, affirming, building, and bridging. If you just validate and affirm, you're not getting to the level of knowledge that we need. Okay, so on page 17 in Dr. Holly's book in front of you, we're going to go over this anticipation guide. Okay, what do you think when you encounter the term culturally responsive teaching? Do you agree or disagree with the following statements about the concept? So you have 5 statements. I'm going to give you about a minute to read through them and to decide whether you agree or disagree with those statements. And you don't have to look at your partner or your neighbor. It just depends on your knowledge of what you know about culturally responsive teaching. Some of us have never heard of it, so it's going to be something new. So take a minute, read through it, put agree, an A for agree next to it, or D for disagree. Okay, we'll pretend that minute is up. So the first one, culturally responsive teaching is meant to help with race relations among educators and students. Just a show of hands, who agree, who disagreed. Okay, so see a few hands up for agree, or give me a thumbs up if you agree, thumbs down if you disagree. Okay, see a few hands that agree, a few that disagree. That's gonna happen. Okay, second one. All students can achieve highly when given the opportunity to learn. Looks like I see mostly thumbs up on that one. Actually, all thumbs up. Racial identity and cultural identity are synonymous. See mostly some thumbs down there and a few thumbs up. So mixed board there. Non-standard English is okay, got a mixture there as well. Socioeconomic status is the most critical factor in student success. All right, looks like we got a mixture on that last one as well. One thing that's good about this, the first chapter, which we're going to be going over the next PD and throughout this week, is going to help us understand more about culturally responsive teaching. Go to the next slide, please. Okay, going forward, chapter 1, a full understanding of CLR. That's all we're trying to do is understand what is CLR. We can't work and do a professional development and put it in our classroom without having a full understanding. Okay, we're going to adopt culturally and linguistically responsive pedagogy as a term for the school. The reasons why, and here they are, culturally responsive teaching gets confused with racially responsive teaching. Okay, culturally responsive pedagogy has less to do with race and more about the different types of cultures that we have in our classroom. There's a whole wide variety of cultures that just aren't based on race. So when we just think of it as racially responsive teaching, you're not doing it correct. Language is an important aspect of culture. Okay, you heard Dr. Holly talk about it. So when we bring in that linguistic part, that's where we have to build academic vocabulary from their home language. We have to bridge from their home language and get them to where we want them at academically. And then our last one, CLR speaks to the specific use of pedagogy. It is used in the classroom. It is a strategy. It is something that we need to be working on daily, and we're going to go over the different types of ways that we're going to be checking that it is used daily in our school. Okay, it's definitely something that we have looked into and something that we need to be using with fidelity. Okay, we're going to pause to ponder. So you got a lot of information. I know in professional developments you get bombarded with information. And we just had a lot of information with Dr. Hawley's video. So are you familiar with the term culturally and linguistically responsive pedagogy? Okay, I can tell you honestly, 2 years ago before this training, I would have had no idea what you were talking about, except for I would have probably tried to use culturally as some surface culture such as food, music, a lot of the stuff that's on the culture, or on the surface. Where have you encountered it? Okay, how do you define it? What sources have you used to inform your definition? Okay, so these are some of the questions going forward that we need to kind of fill out throughout this first chapter. Okay, so that's something to look forward to. That's something we're going to be working on throughout this first week. Just getting comfortable with culturally and linguistically responsive pedagogy and how to define it and what is expected of it.